tax reform is a way to give this economy a shot in the arm right now. It's one of many structural reforms that's in this legislation that the Senator from Kentucky and the Senator from Arizona have put together with me. It is very consistent with this idea that America's best days are ahead of her if we restructure some of these basic parts of our economy. Tax reform necessary, lowering health care costs, absolutely critical, allowing us to explore for energy here on our shores and create jobs and economic opportunity, being sure that we're reducing the regulations that are strangling small businesses. These are all structural reforms that we can and should do. And by the way, there's bipartisan support for every single one of those elements. So I commend the Senator from Arizona for raising these issues, for his passion for them, Senator from Kentucky, and I hope that the Senate will give us the opportunity to vote on this, and it should be a bipartisan vote, because so many of these issues are issues that transcend partisanship, and in each case, there are Democrats and Republicans who understand the need to move our economy forward by making these structural changes. Because here you have our national defense at stake, and you have our soldiers and Marines and sailors out there, and the bill comes to the President of the United States, and is he going to sign it or not? Well, if he doesn't sign it, there's a risk that there'll be at least a gap in funding, if not, as you say, be overturned. So, yeah, there's a lot of pressure to sign it. And so what happens is, presidents sign these pieces of legislation with the earmarks in them, and we have more spending than we should have, and the spending's not going to the priorities. It's not going to the national priorities. So this legislation is really simple. It says back in the late 1990s, 1996, President Clinton signed a line-item veto bill. Constitutionally, it was questionable, and sure enough, the Supreme Court overturned it. Now we've come back with another way to do this. It's called enhanced rescission, but it's basically a legislative line-item veto, where Congress would have the right to be able to review what the president rescinded. And if they didn't act within a short period of time, it would be rescinded, but Congress could act to overturn the president. So it's, we believe, constitutional, meets all the obligations that were set out in that Supreme Court case that overturned the first line-item veto, and yet puts the pressure on the Congress not to put this pork barrel spending in, and if they do, you'd have the light of day shown on it, and Congress would have to individually take up these line items, these pork barrel projects. So we think this is a constructive way forward that is constitutional, that meets all the concerns that have been raised, and would help to get the spending down and to prioritize spending at a time when we have record deficits and debt. Let me give you an example of where we could come together on something really simple. And again, it's something that Senator from Arizona and Senator from Kentucky have included in their legislation. Everybody knows that the federal regulators are putting more and more pressure on small businesses all around the country. We hear it every time we go home. I can't think of a time I've been home at a plant tour where somebody hasn't raised with me a federal regulation that is causing them difficulty because it's increasing the cost of hiring somebody. At a time of over 9% unemployment, we've got to do everything we can to get this economy moving, and one is to lessen that regulatory burden, make sure it's smart. So one of the pieces of legislation that we're promoting is to say to the federal agencies, go through a cost-benefit analysis, including looking at what the impact is going to be on jobs. Now, who could be against that? And that needs to be done not just in the so-called executive branch agencies, but also in the independent agencies, which are not subject to these current cost-benefit rules.